My mother forced me out for being pregnant. Now she wants me to co-sign a loan for her new house. I always used to think of home as a single tangible place, my mother's house, with the yellow shutters and the squeaky porch swing out front. Growing up, I loved that porch swing. I would sit there on breezy afternoons, letting my feet brush the wooden planks of the porch, imagining the future. My mother would sometimes join me, her arm around my shoulders, telling me how I could be anything I wanted if I just worked hard enough and believed in myself. That was how I defined security back then. The gentle sway of the swing, her arm around me, and the promise that no matter what happened in the outside world, I had a home with her. But that vision came crashing down the day she found out I was pregnant at 19. She kicked me out of the house, threw my suitcases onto the lawn, tears in her eyes, calling me names I never thought I'd hear from her lips. She told me I'd broken her heart and that she refused to watch me ruin my life by having a baby out of wedlock. I begged her to let me explain, to let me stay, but she hardened into a wall of anger and disapproval. I left, tears streaming down my face, feeling my soul splinter like an old, dried-out board. Overnight, I lost the only home I'd ever truly known. That was nearly 8 years ago. Since then, I've built my own life, a new home, if you will, defined by my daughter and my determination to give her the security I was denied. It's ironic, then, that my mother recently reappeared, wanting something from me. I didn't recognize the number on my phone when it rang one afternoon, just after I got off work. I was standing in the small corner store by my apartment, picking up milk and bread. The voice that came through was hesitant but unmistakable. It was hers. "Robin," she said, it's me, your mother." I nearly dropped my phone, my heart lurching. 8 years of silence broken with that single sentence. She said she wanted to meet, to talk about something important. Against my better judgment, I agreed. Maybe I was still that frightened 19-year-old inside, yearning for her approval and explanation. We arranged to meet at a local diner, the same one where she used to take me for strawberry milkshakes when I was a child. Memories flooded back as I drove there the following afternoon, memories of simpler times, when my mother and I laughed together, forging inside jokes about silly things. When I arrived, I spotted her at a corner booth. She looked older, thinner, as though life had whittled her down. But she still had the same sharp gaze I remembered, the one that could slice through my defenses in an instant when I was a teenager. She gave me a tight smile as I slid into the booth. For a moment, neither of us spoke. I felt an absurd urge to reach out and hug her, to feel that comforting presence again. But then I remembered how she'd thrown me out, telling me I was an embarrassment. The memory tightened around my heart like a vice. "How are you?" she finally asked, her eyes flickering over my face as though searching for the girl she once knew. I didn't know how to answer. "I've been okay," I said carefully, not wanting to bare my soul. "I have a decent job and an apartment. My daughter is healthy. We manage." I said that last part with an edge in my tone, a subtle jab to remind her that I'd done this alone. She swallowed. That's good," she murmured, wrapping her hands around her mug of coffee. A beat of silence. "I've missed you," she added, but there was a hollowness to her voice, as if she knew she'd forfeited the right to say those words. I wanted to retort, to tell her how impossible it was to miss someone you abandoned. But some weary part of me decided to keep quiet. "What's going on?" I asked instead. "Why did you want to meet?" She pursed her lips, then reached into her purse and pulled out a stack of glossy brochures. They were for housing developments, pictures of gleaming new houses with manicured lawns and big porches. "I'm looking to buy a house," she said, her gaze steady on me, "but my credit has taken some hits over the years. I was hoping you might help me co-sign for the mortgage." I actually laughed, a harsh sound that drew glances from the next table. "You can't be serious," I managed. "You haven't spoken to me in 8 years, and now you want me to co-sign on a house?" She flinched, setting down the brochures. "I know how it sounds, but I've been in a difficult position for a while. After you left." I shook my head, stifling the rise of anger. "After you kicked me out, you mean?" Her lips tightened. "I've regretted some things, but it's done. I can't change the past. The point is, I'm trying to make a fresh start. I don't have anyone else who can help me. I'm renting a cramped one-bedroom for years, and I'm not getting any younger. The bank said I need a cosigner with a stable income and a better credit score or I won't get approved. The sheer audacity of the request left me speechless for a moment. You realize I'm a single mother, right? I have my own bills, my own responsibilities. Where do you get the idea that I can just co-sign on a mortgage for you? If you default, it ruins me. My daughter and I can't afford to be left holding the bag if you can't pay. She held my gaze, and I saw a flicker of desperation in her eyes. I wouldn't default, she insisted. I have a steady job now, a better paying position at an office. I just need a chance. I'm your mother, Robin. This house, it would mean everything to me. A place to call my own again. And maybe it could be a place for you to bring your daughter so we could reconnect. I stared at her, anger and sadness boiling inside me. She wanted to talk about reconnecting, that about building a family home after she'd shattered ours without remorse. She might as well have stabbed me in the heart again. I struggled to contain my emotions, reminding myself that I was an adult now. I had to handle this like one. I can't give you an answer right now, I said stiffly, standing up from the booth. I need time to think, but don't get your hopes up. In truth, I wanted to storm out and never see her again, but a part of me hesitated. She was still my mother, the woman who'd once tucked me in at night and sang lullabies. I couldn't shut off those memories, no matter how hard I tried. She nodded, tears glistening in her eyes. I understand. Thank you for even considering it. Don't thank me, I muttered, grabbing my purse. I haven't promised anything. I turned and walked out, the bell over the diner's door jangling. Outside, the sky was gray, the air heavy with humidity, as though on the verge of rain. I stood on the sidewalk, trying to collect myself. My phone buzzed. It was a text from the babysitter, letting me know my daughter was fine, just finished with her snack. Reading that simple update brought tears to my eyes. My mother had never known that sense of reassurance, never once asked how my child was doing after throwing me out. And now, 8 years later, she had the nerve to ask for a mortgage cosign. On the drive home, my mind reeled. I didn't even have the mental space to recall exactly how it all went so wrong between us so quickly when she discovered my pregnancy. It was my freshman year of college, and I'd been head over heels for a boy from my English lit class. We were both reckless, skipping classes sometimes to spend afternoons at the park, kissing under the trees. I never thought I'd get pregnant, of course. I assumed we were being careful enough. When I missed my period, my fear skyrocketed, but I still didn't think it would be a reason for my mother to disown me. I told her, hoping she'd cry or lecture me or demand to meet the father, but not what she did. She just screamed at me for hours, calling me irresponsible and a disappointment, warning me that I'd end up on the streets. And then she made good on that threat, telling me I had to leave by the end of the day. I gathered my clothes into trash bags, my eyes blurred by tears. She didn't even stay in the house while I did it. She stood in the yard, trembling, refusing to look at me. I remember trying to reason with her, saying that maybe I could put the baby up for adoption if that's what she wanted, or maybe I could find a way to keep attending college. But she shouted that she'd raised me better, that I'd thrown away my future, and she didn't want the burden of dealing with my mistakes. That was the last conversation we had. I called her once from a friend's phone, but she didn't pick up. I tried emailing her, but she never replied. Eventually, I gave up. I was too busy surviving, sleeping on a friend's couch, then scrounging up a job at a local cafe, trying to figure out how to navigate health appointments and an uncertain future. My daughter's father vanished when I told him about the pregnancy, making it clear he wasn't interested in being a dad. It was just me, alone, doing the best I could. And I did manage, if barely. I gave birth to a healthy baby girl. I named her Lily, after my grandmother. I juggled childcare with a string of low-paying jobs, eventually scraping enough money together to rent a tiny studio apartment. Over the years, I moved up to a better position at an accounting firm where I did administrative work and eventually learned enough to become a junior bookkeeper. Lily is 7 now, bright and full of questions, always wanting to know why she doesn't have a grandma like her classmates. I never had a good answer for that. I told her my mother lives far away, which is half true emotionally, if not physically. I parked outside my apartment complex, a low-rise building in a working-class neighborhood. The walls were a bit thin, and the plumbing had issues, but it was home. Lily's babysitter was waiting with her in the lobby, looking relieved when I walked in. Lily bounded over, her curly hair bouncing. She told me all about her day, how she drew a picture of a unicorn at school, how the teacher praised her coloring skills. Normally, hearing about her day lifted my spirits, but today I felt weighed down. Even her sweet chatter reminded me of what my own mother had missed all these years. I wondered if she regretted it truly, or if she was just reaching out now because she needed me to sign some papers. Over the next few days, I tried to push the incident aside. My mother texted me a couple of times, providing updates on the houses she was looking at. I ignored them, not ready to respond. I told myself I had no obligation to do anything for her, that I needed to protect myself and Lily. But a small voice in my head wondered if it was possible for us to reconcile. Maybe I should at least consider hearing her out, see if she'd truly changed. I was torn between self-preservation and some lingering, foolish hope for motherly love. After about a week, I finally confided in my best friend, Jana. We'd become friends years ago when I was first struggling to raise Lily. She was a single mom too, a neighbor in my old building. We bonded over late-night infant feedings and the shared exhaustion of single parenthood. Now, Jana was married to a kind man who adored her child, and they lived in a comfortable townhouse, but we still hung out often. I invited Jana over after Lily went to bed. We sat in my living room, sipping cheap white wine. I told her everything, my mother's sudden reappearance, her plea for me to co-sign a mortgage. Jana nearly choked on her wine. "She kicked you out pregnant at 19, Jana said, eyes wide with disbelief, and now she waltzes back into your life wanting a mortgage co-sign? That's insane. She must be delusional." I nodded, fiddling with a loose thread on my couch cushion. "I know, it's crazy, but she's still my mother." I hated how small my voice sounded. Jana set down her glass. "Robin, she threw you out. She left you to figure everything out by yourself. You owe her nothing." I stared at my lap. "You're right, but a tiny part of me wonders if maybe this is a chance to fix things. For Lily's sake, you know. Lily's always asking about her grandma. She sees other kids with grandparents at recitals, birthdays, family gatherings. Maybe if my mom and I mend fences, Lily could have that grandma figure in her life." Jana's expression softened. "That's understandable. But do you think your mother wants to be in Lily's life, or does she just want your signature? Because if it's the latter, you could end up badly hurt. And if you co-sign and she defaults, you'd be on the hook for that mortgage." I sighed. "I know. Trust me, it's not like I'm jumping to sign anything, but maybe I should at least talk to her again, see if she's serious about rebuilding a relationship." Jana leaned back, arms crossed. "I'd be careful. She burned that bridge pretty thoroughly. People can change, but she has a lot to prove. And the moment she mentioned co-signing a loan, I'd be wondering if she's just using you." That was my biggest fear, that she was just using me. But I needed to know for sure. Lily deserved grandparents if they were going to be supportive. For all I knew, my mother had lived with regret for years. Maybe she'd show genuine remorse if given the chance. My heart battled my mind, logic warring with a longing for the maternal affection I'd missed all these years. A few days later, I texted my mother, telling her I'd meet for coffee if she wanted to talk. She replied almost instantly, suggesting a cafe near the accounting firm where I worked. We set a time. I spent the hours beforehand feeling like a stretched rubber band, taut and ready to snap. At precisely 3 p.m, I walked into the cafe, scanning for her. She was already there, seated at a small table by the window, wearing a neat blouse and slacks, a to-go cup of tea in front of her. I ordered a latte, then joined her. For a long moment, we just looked at each other. I saw lines on her face I hadn't noticed before, a certain tightness around her mouth. "How've you been?" she asked softly, as though we were acquaintances who'd lost touch for a few months, not 8 years. "I manage," I said, echoing what I'd told her before. "Work is steady. Lily's in 1st grade. She loves it." She brightened slightly. "Lily? That's a pretty name." I tensed. "Named after Grandma Lily, actually," I said. "I wish she'd known her great-granddaughter." Her eyes flickered with pain. "I do too. I'm sorry I never got to." She trailed off as if the words stuck in her throat. "Anyway, I guess you want to know more about this mortgage situation?" I nodded, deciding to let her lead. She explained how she'd struggled after I left, eventually losing the house we'd lived in because she couldn't keep up with payments. She said she'd borrowed money from acquaintances, but that didn't last. She'd moved into a small rental, changed jobs a few times, and her credit took a hit in the process. Now she'd found a stable administrative job, decent enough pay, but her credit wasn't strong enough for a mortgage on her own. The bank told her she needed a cosigner with a better financial standing. "Which is where you come in," she said, her gaze sliding away from mine. "I did some research. Your credit score is actually pretty decent, from what I can tell. I'm not asking for money, just your name on the loan so the bank will approve me." I sipped my latte, stalling. "That's a huge commitment," I said quietly. "Co-signing isn't just me putting my name on a piece of paper. It means if you miss payments, the bank comes after me. That could ruin my credit. Even worse, they could seize assets." She clenched her hands. "I understand, but I promise I won't default. I'm getting older, Robin. I want a place to call my own before it's too late, a place to retire someday. Can't you see how important this is to me? I'm your mother." My temper flared at that last statement. "Yeah, you're my mother, but that didn't stop you from throwing me out at 19 because I was pregnant. You left me homeless and penniless, so I'm not sure why I should risk my own financial stability for you now." She winced. "I was so angry back then. I felt betrayed. I thought you were throwing your life away. I overreacted. I was wrong, okay? I can't say anything else but that I'm sorry. I can't undo it." I swallowed, trying not to let her see how much that small admission cracked my defenses. "What about Lily? You never asked about her, never reached out. Didn't you wonder how we were doing all these years?" Her face twisted in regret. "I did wonder, but I was ashamed. I didn't know how to fix what I'd done. Every time I thought about contacting you, I convinced myself you hated me. Maybe I was afraid you'd reject me, and I didn't want to face that." She ran a trembling hand through her hair. "I guess I kept waiting for a sign that you'd let me back in, but I never got it, so I stayed away. Maybe it was cowardly." I blinked back tears. Hearing her confession felt both validating and infuriating. "It was cowardly," I echoed. "But you're here now because you need something from me." She nodded slowly. "Yes, I'm not proud of that, but I also want to make amends. Robin, I'd like to meet Lily. I want to be part of your life again, if you'll let me." She paused, her voice trembling. "I realize co-signing might seem like a bribe, but it's not. I truly want us to reconnect. The house is it's something I've dreamed of for a long time, having a stable home again. And if you sign with me, maybe we can build that place together. A place where Lily can visit her grandmother, where we can fix what's broken." My mind whirled. Part of me yearned to believe her, to snatch that dream of a reconciled family. Another part screamed caution. "I'm not promising anything," I said, my voice thick. "I need time to think. I want you to meet Lily, but it has to be gradual. And I can't just sign a loan without being sure you're serious and stable." She nodded, tears brimming in her eyes. "I'll wait. I'll prove it to you if I can. Please, Robin, just let me try." I left the cafe feeling conflicted, a swirl of emotions swirling like leaves in a storm. My mother's apology had sparked a flicker of hope. But trust wasn't something I could give easily, not after what she'd done. I spent that evening staring at Lily's drawings on the fridge rainbows, princesses, a stick figure family with just me and her. There was an empty space where a grandma figure might be. Did I want to fill it with a woman who'd once turned her back on me? Could people truly change after so many years? In the end, I decided to let my mother meet Lily under controlled circumstances. If she was sincere about wanting a relationship, I wanted to give Lily the chance to know her grandmother. But as for the mortgage cosign, that was still up in the air. One step at a time. I texted my mother to suggest a casual outing at the park on Saturday morning. She agreed instantly. When I told Lily we were going to the park to meet someone special, she was excited, but also confused. I felt guilty for not explaining that it was her grandmother, but I didn't want to set expectations in case it went badly. Saturday arrived gray and windy. We met at a modest park in the neighborhood swings, a small slide, a patchy field for kids to run around. My mother was waiting near a bench, looking nervous. She wore a light jacket, her posture rigid as she spotted us. Lily skipped over, and I gently said, "Lily, this is This is my mom, your grandmother. Lily's eyes widened. She glanced up at me, then at the stranger. My mother knelt down, tears gleaming in her eyes. Hi, Lily, she said softly. I'm so happy to meet you. For a moment, Lily just stared, her expression uncertain. Then she gave a shy nod. Hi, she replied, edging closer to me. My mother slowly extended a hand, and Lily, after a brief hesitation, shook it. It was a small, hesitant gesture, but it made my throat tighten. My mother looked close to sobbing, but she held it together, smiling in a wobbly sort of way. We spent the next hour or so playing. Lily ran around, climbing the jungle gym and insisting we watch her go down the slide. My mother hovered by my side, occasionally daring to call out encouragement to Lily. She seemed unsure how to act, as though afraid to overstep. After a while, Lily came over and asked me to push her on the swing. I watched as my mother gently pushed, her face a mixture of wonder and sorrow. I wondered if she was remembering pushing me on a swing all those years ago. The memory of that porch swing flashed in my mind, and a pang of grief shot through me. When the outing ended, Lily surprised us both by hugging my mother goodbye. It was a brief, tentative hug, but Mother clung to her for a moment, tears slipping down her cheeks. Thank you, she mouthed at me, and I just nodded, not trusting myself to speak. Over the next several weeks, we arranged more visits, a trip to the bookstore, a lunch at a family-friendly restaurant. Lily warmed up more each time. She'd bombard my mother with questions about her favorite color, her favorite animals, her job. My mother answered patiently, occasionally glancing at me as if seeking approval. I maintained a watchful distance, still unsure if I could fully trust her. But Lily was thrilled. She told me one night at bedtime, "Mommy, I have a grandma now." My heart twisted, both happy for her and terrified of the potential fallout if my mother failed us again. Meanwhile, the mortgage topic loomed in the background. My mother periodically mentioned houses she'd seen and how the bank needed a cosigner soon if she was to secure a good interest rate. I held her off, saying I needed more time. Part of me wanted to see if she'd push or become manipulative, but instead, she backed off whenever I brushed it aside, focusing instead on Lily. Maybe she was sincere about rebuilding the family bond, not just using me for financial gain. I started to lower my guard, bit by bit. Then came an evening when my mother invited me to her apartment for the first time in 8 years. She wanted to cook dinner for us, she said, a chance to show Lily her place. Nervously, I agreed. I half expected a dingy, depressing apartment, but it was small, yet tidy, decorated with some old furniture I recognized from our house. She'd set the table with mismatched plates, and I felt a pang of nostalgia seeing the floral pattern I used to hate as a teenager. Lily roamed the living room, examining knickknacks and pictures. She found an old photo of me as a kid, grinning on that porch swing, my mother beside me. Lily held it up. "Mommy, that's you," she exclaimed. My mother smiled wistfully, telling Lily the story of how I used to play outside for hours, refusing to come in even when the sun set. Dinner was simple spaghetti with homemade sauce. I was surprised to find my appetite strong, the food comforting, reminding me of better times. After Lily finished eating, she curled up on the couch with a children's book, leaving me and my mother at the table. We talked about everyday things, her job, my job, Lily's school. It felt almost normal. Then the conversation took a turn. She cleared her throat. "I haven't wanted to rush you," she began carefully, "but the bank is putting some pressure on me. If I can't finalize the cosigner soon, I'll lose the mortgage pre-approval. I was hoping maybe you'd had time to think about it." My stomach clenched. This was it, the moment of truth. "I have been thinking," I said slowly. "I see how you're trying with Lily, and I appreciate that, but co-signing is a huge deal. I need to be sure you won't let me down." She reached across the table, touching my hand lightly. I resisted the urge to pull away. "I won't, Robin. I've changed. I was so cruel to you before. I can't deny that. It's taken me years to see what I lost. I want to fix it, and I want Lily to have a grandma she can count on. Please believe me." I studied her face. She looked earnest, the lines around her eyes etched with regret. My heart hammered. If I said no, maybe she'd vanish again, and Lily would lose this budding relationship. If I said yes, I risked financial ruin if she defaulted. But maybe I'd also gain a mother again, and Lily, a grandmother. Did I dare take that leap? "All right," I said finally, my voice unsteady. "I'll co-sign. But we have to set some conditions. First, I need to see all the paperwork, your income, the mortgage terms, everything. And if you ever miss a payment even once, I reserve the right to pull out or force a refinance. Agreed? Her face lit up with relief. Yes, of course. Whatever you need. Thank you, Robin. You won't regret it. I nodded, my gut churning with anxiety. I hope not. I'm doing this for Lily and for whatever's left of this family. She covered my hand with hers again. I understand, she whispered. Thank you. We spent the next week scrambling to gather documents, meeting with the mortgage broker. My mother's credit was indeed poor, but her steady job for the past 2 years helped. My own credit was decent, thanks to careful bill paying and a small nest egg I'd built over time. The broker gave us the final interest rate, higher than average, but still manageable with the two of us signing. The house my mother had her eye on was a modest single-story place in a decent neighborhood. Nothing fancy, 2 bedrooms, a small backyard. She was overjoyed. I managed a cautious optimism. The day of the closing felt surreal. We sat at a long table with a notary, signing stacks of papers. My hand shook slightly. I kept imagining worst-case scenarios. Her losing her job, defaulting on payments, the bank coming after me. But each time I reminded myself that she was trying. She'd shown genuine effort with Lily. Maybe, just maybe, this was the start of a new chapter. When the final signature was done, my mother turned to me, tears in her eyes, and hugged me tightly. I let her, closing my eyes against the swirl of emotions. Maybe I was foolish, but I couldn't help wanting a mother's love, even after all these years. Over the following month, she moved into the new house, gradually filling it with furniture and decor. She invited Lily and me over one Saturday to see the place. Lily dashed through the room, squealing about how Grandma had a backyard with a small garden, how the living room had a cozy fireplace. My mother glowed with pride, showing off her little vegetable patch. She even gave Lily a painted rock to mark a special spot near a tomato plant. I tried to remain guarded, but I couldn't deny the warmth spreading in my chest. Maybe I'd made the right choice. For a while, things seemed to go smoothly. My mother paid her mortgage on time each month, sending me screenshots of the receipts to reassure me. Lily continued to bond with her, giggling at silly jokes, asking if we could have sleepovers at Grandma's house someday. I felt my walls eroding as each new memory formed. A small birthday party for Lily where my mother baked a cake, a quiet evening by the fireplace where we all toasted marshmallows. I started calling her Mom, again instead of carefully avoiding that word. Perhaps trust could be rebuilt, thread by thread. Then, 3 months in, a glitch appeared. My mother lost her job unexpectedly. The company downsized, letting go of several employees. She told me over the phone, her voice shaking, "I'll find something else soon, I promise. I have some savings. I won't miss the mortgage payment." I tried to stay calm. "All right, keep me posted." My stomach churned with fear. This was the scenario I dreaded. A co-signer is only as secure as the borrower's job, but she insisted she'd find new work quickly, that her severance would cover a month or 2. I waited, anxious as days turned into weeks. She applied everywhere according to her text, but no luck yet. Then came the next mortgage due date, and she called me in tears. "I'm short," she said. "I can't make the full payment. Could you maybe lend me some money this month, just until I get a job?" My heart sank. "Mom, I told you from the start, I don't have a lot of spare cash. I have Lily, rent, groceries. I can't cover your mortgage." In truth, I had a small emergency fund, but it was for my daughter's needs, for the possibility of job loss or medical issues. Dipping into that fund felt like gambling with Lily's security. But if I refused, would the bank come after me? She sobbed quietly on the phone. "Please, Robin, I'm sorry. I swear I'll pay you back once I find a job. I just need a little help." I pressed a hand to my forehead, my chest tight. "I can't float your mortgage indefinitely, Mom. I can't risk Lily's future. That's why I said from the beginning we needed a contingency plan." She sniffled. "I know, but I didn't plan to lose my job. Just 1 month. If I default, it'll hurt both of us, right?" That last sentence cut deep, twisting guilt around my heart. She was right. If she defaulted, my credit would also be wrecked. Worse, the bank might try to garnish my wages. I swallowed, my mind racing. "Fine," I managed, a wave of dread crashing over me. "I'll lend you enough for this month. But that's it. You have to figure something out next month, or we'll have to sell the house or refinance because I can't do this. I'm sorry." She exhaled in relief, promising she'd repay me. I hung up, feeling sick. This was exactly the scenario Jana and I had worried about. My mother losing her job, turning to me for money, forcing me to choose between my own family's stability and bailing her out. I felt fury simmering at the edge of my mind at her for putting me in this position, and at myself for being naive enough to sign on that dotted line. Still, I transferred the money to her, enough to cover the mortgage for 1 month, plus late fees. She promised to pay me back as soon as she found new work. The following month arrived, and to my despair, she still hadn't secured a job. She told me she'd gone on interviews, but no offers yet. Her severance was drying up. We faced the same crisis. Another mortgage due, no funds. My bank account was already strained from the previous bailout. If I covered it again, I'd be drawing from Lily's emergency savings. Did I dare? Or did I force my mother to default, plunging us both into financial chaos? We had a tense phone conversation. She begged, I resisted. She cried, reminding me that if the house went into foreclosure, my credit would be ruined. She also tried to play the family card, saying that Lily loved visiting Grandma's house. I felt manipulated, cornered. But I saw no good options. Defaulting meant I'd be hammered financially, possibly sued. Lending her more money endangered my own safety net. I ended up meeting her in person to discuss the situation. She looked haggard, her hair unkempt, dark circles under her eyes like she hadn't slept in days. We sat at her kitchen table in the new house. Lily was at a friend's place, so we could talk openly. I found a part-time gig, my mother said, wringing her hands, but it's nowhere near enough to cover the mortgage. I can't lose this house, Robin. I've wanted this for so long. I gazed around the house, remembering how excited she'd been to fill it with furniture, how proud she was of the backyard. My anger surged. Then you should have saved more, or made sure your job was secure before you took on a mortgage you couldn't handle alone, I snapped. I have responsibilities too, you know. Lily depends on me. I can't funnel all my money to keep your house afloat. Tears welled in her eyes. Don't you think I know that? I hate asking you, but the bank's going to start sending notices any day now. Once they do, you'll be in default as well. Panic churned my stomach. I wanted to scream that this was exactly why I'd hesitated to co-sign, exactly why I'd asked for assurances, but we were past that. The question was, did I throw more money at the problem or cut our losses somehow? Maybe we needed to put the house up for sale immediately to avoid foreclosure, but that would break Lily's heart and my mother's, and I'd still be on the hook until it's sold. I can't keep paying, I said, my voice shaking. If you can't cover next month, we have to sell. There's no other option. She buried her face in her hands, sobbing. Please, just one more month. I'm this close to landing a decent job. I can feel it. Her desperation tore at me. Despite everything, she was my mother, and I'd spent these past months hoping we could heal. Now we were back to heartbreak. If I give you one more month, I said slowly, and you don't pay me back, I'm forcing the sale. Are we clear? She nodded miserably, tears dripping onto the table. Yes, I understand. Against all logic, I wrote her another check. Then I drove home, numb, fighting the urge to cry. Lily was asleep when I got in. I stood by her bed, watching her breathe, wishing life weren't so complicated. I'd gone from an abandoned teenage mother to a relatively stable adult, only to risk it all because I dared to hope my own mother had changed. A week later, I discovered she still hadn't paid off the borrowed funds from the previous month, let alone the new month's loan. She kept stalling, saying she'd repay me soon, but I started to suspect she had no plan. Another week passed, and I got an official letter from the bank stating that the mortgage was now 2 months behind, and unless the past due balance was paid, they'd begin foreclosure proceedings. My heart hammered as I read it. So my mother had either not made the payments at all, or something had gone wrong. I called her in a panic, demanding answers. She insisted she'd mailed the checks. Maybe they got lost. I almost laughed at the absurdity. I knew it was time to cut my losses. The house needed to be sold before the bank seized it. I confronted her, telling her we had to put it on the market immediately. She fought me, begging for more time. I refused. The next day, I contacted a realtor. My mother was furious, calling me at odd hours, accusing me of giving up on her, telling me I had no right to yank the house out from under her. I reminded her that I was co-signer, which gave me legal rights, and that she'd defaulted on the payments. This was what had to be done. Otherwise, we'd both be ruined. She spewed hurtful words, claiming I was heartless, that I was just like my father, who left us when I was young. She said I was punishing her. I wanted to yell back that she'd forced me out at 19, that she should count herself lucky I'd ever given her a second chance. But I couldn't muster the energy to argue. The whole situation felt like quicksand. Each step I took to save myself only pulled me deeper into regret. Soon, the realtor listed the house at a modest price, hoping for a quick sale. Potential buyers trickled in. My mother glared at me whenever I accompanied the realtor for showings, as if I were the villain in her tragedy. Meanwhile, Lily was confused why Grandma was suddenly so upset. I tried to explain in child-friendly terms, saying that sometimes grown-ups have money problems and might have to move. Lily cried, not wanting to lose the place where she'd planted her little rock in the garden. I felt like a monster. My mother refused to talk to me unless it was to argue about the house. She missed visits with Lily, citing depression. My worst fears had come true. We were back to estrangement. After a painful month, an offer came in. It was slightly below asking price, but enough to cover the mortgage balance and late fees, plus the realty commission. We'd walk away with almost nothing, certainly not enough to reimburse me for the money I'd lent, but at least it wouldn't be a foreclosure. I told my mother we should accept. She refused, wanting to hold out for a better offer. The realtor advised against it, warning that we risked the bank finalizing foreclosure if we delayed. Another shouting match ensued between me and my mother. She claimed I was pushing her out of her dream home. I insisted the dream was already over if she couldn't pay. Eventually, she grudgingly agreed to accept the offer. We signed the paperwork. The closing was set for 3 weeks later. Those were the longest 3 weeks of my life. My mother barely spoke to me, except to lash out that I was betraying her. Lily asked why Grandma didn't call anymore. I had no good answer, other than grown-up problems. The day of the closing, I arrived at the title company, expecting my mother to be there. She was late, nearly missing the appointment. When she finally burst in, she looked disheveled, eyes puffy. She glared at me as we sat across the table. I avoided her gaze, focusing on the papers. After the final signatures, the house belonged to someone else. The escrow paid off the mortgage debt, leaving a pitiful remainder that mostly went to cover overdue fees. My mother received a small check, hardly enough to start over. She crumpled it in her fist, tears rolling down her cheeks. The notary left, giving us a moment alone in the conference room. My mother stood, leaning over the table. "I hope you're happy," she spat, voice trembling. "You got rid of me. Rid of my house. You never wanted to reconcile. You just wanted control." I stared at her, feeling tears prick my eyes. "You can't say that. I tried. I risked my finances for you. You lost your job. You couldn't pay. What did you expect me to do?" She sneered. "A real daughter would have helped me keep my dream, but you're still the same selfish girl who got knocked up and ruined her own life." That stung more than I wanted to admit. "You're one to talk about selfishness," I hissed, gripping the edge of the table. "You threw me out when I was pregnant, and you have the audacity to call me selfish? I gave you a second chance, and you blew it. Don't you dare blame me." She glared, tears dripping onto her shirt. For a moment, she looked like she might apologize or collapse, but instead she stormed out, her footsteps echoing in the hallway. I stood there, drained, realizing that any fragile bridge we'd built was now in flames. When I got home, Lily was at school. I sank onto the couch, burying my face in my hands, sobbing. All these months of hope, trying to reconcile with my mother, letting her into Lily's life, signing on that damn mortgage only to end up back where we started, estranged, angry, and full of regret. I felt like a fool. Jana came by later, and I poured out the whole story between gasping sobs. She hugged me, telling me it wasn't my fault that I'd tried. I'd done more than most people would for a mother who'd once turned her back on me. In the weeks that followed, I received a few texts from my mother, angry ones, accusing me of betrayal or passive-aggressive messages that implied I was responsible for her being homeless. I blocked her number eventually, realizing I couldn't keep letting her guilt me. Lily asked occasionally about Grandma, and I just said Grandma was going through a hard time, that we might see her again someday if she got better. It broke my heart to see Lily's disappointed face, but I couldn't subject my daughter to more chaos. Time moved on. I refocused on my work, giving Lily the stability she deserved. The financial damage from bailing out my mother's missed mortgage payments was significant, but I managed to keep my own credit intact and slowly rebuilt my savings. For better or worse, that chapter was over, or so I thought. Then, nearly a year later, a letter arrived in my mailbox, no return address, but the handwriting looked familiar. I hesitated before opening it. Inside was a single sheet of lined paper. My mother's handwriting was shaky. She wrote that she was living in a cheap motel, barely getting by. She apologized in a meandering way, saying she knew she'd hurt me and that she was sorry for failing again. She asked if I could ever forgive her, or at least let Lily know that her grandma loved her, even if she couldn't be there right now. She ended by saying she hoped I would never have to experience the regret she felt every day. I read it multiple times, tears blurring my vision. Despite all the pain she'd caused, I felt a pang of sorrow for her. She'd lost everything, her child once, her second chance at home ownership, her granddaughter's trust, but I also knew I couldn't fix her life. I'd tried, and it nearly destroyed me. Lily and I were my priority now. I didn't respond to the letter. Maybe that was cold, but I couldn't open that door again, not after the havoc she'd unleashed. Sometimes survival meant protecting yourself from the person who hurt you, even if that person is your mother. In the end, I realized that home wasn't just four walls or a porch swing. It was the security we create within ourselves, the sense of belonging we cultivate with those who truly love us. My mother's new house had been a false hope, a structure built on shaky foundations of guilt and longing. But my real home was the one I made with Lily, the place where we danced in the living room to silly songs, cooked pancakes on Saturday mornings, and laughed at bedtime stories. That was home, something my mother hadn't been able to give me, but something I learned to give my daughter on my own. Sometimes Lily still asks if Grandma might visit again or if we can see her. I just say, maybe someday, if she's in a better place. It's not a satisfying answer, but it's the truth. I refuse to lie to my child or raise her hopes with empty promises. If my mother truly changes, truly seeks help for her demons, perhaps one day we can reconcile. But I've learned to set boundaries, to protect my heart and my daughters from false illusions. Until then, I stand by my decision. I tried. I gave her one last chance. Now I'm focused on Lily and our life together. I still remember the porch swing from my childhood, how I used to feel safe there with my mother's arm around me. Maybe that memory will always carry a bittersweet tinge, a reminder of what was lost. But I like to believe that I can create a new version of that swing for Lily, maybe not physically, but in spirit, a place where she feels secure, loved, and free to dream. If that means keeping my mother at a distance for the sake of our sanity, so be it. I've learned that sometimes choosing yourself and your child is the only way to break the cycle of pain. And that, in its own way, is an act of love and healing, even if it means letting go of the mother I once longed for. So we go forward, Lily and I, hand in hand. The sun rises each morning, bringing fresh challenges and small joys. We share laughter, we face fears, we grow stronger. And though part of me will always mourn the mother I wished I had, I've found a deeper sense of home within myself. It's a home built on resilience and the unwavering bond I share with my daughter, who will never have to question my love, no matter what curveballs life throws our way.